who might miss the meeting. I see Patty, you have some thoughts.
Yes, but I don't know. I think Odie's hand was up before mine.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
I don't even see your little hand up. That's okay. Well, whoever wants to go ahead and talk, we'll get to both. Go ahead.
Okay, so hang on. Can you repeat the question? I have something to say for it. I just need the question one more time. Would I stay in or would I leave, right? Billy, are you there?
I'm here. I heard noises. Is that
I
okay?
heard a band too. It wasn't mine.
No,
Did
I
you hear
heard
a
like
band?
all night long. Oh,
Oh,
no.
that was
Somebody had some. Go ahead. Go ahead.
so I I have lived in both situations. Like I lived in the city and I lived in the country. And I'd like to think that like where I am now is probably like where I'd want to be. Like we are kind of like in the middle. We're in the middle of the country and the city, and we're like a little kind of weird suburb. Like we're surrounded by cornfields and things like that. But I like your idea of there being more resources. But to Emily's point, to Robin's point, people get real weird real quick. There's actually a movie, you guys. It's called Blackout, and it covers this, and it's like a found footage style movie, and like in it, like no, you can't. But I love you so much. I'll see you soon. Um, where at the end, like they end up like killing someone over a can of peaches. Like it gets that awful. It's a can of it might not even be like good anymore. Um, so I, as much as I want to be around people in a community survival event, I'm frightened by it. I'm a little scared to live in the community and be in the community when there's everyone has kids or everyone has something that they think is worth fighting for, and I don't feel like anyone's wrong for it. But it goes into the other questions about like the line. But I will say really quick, you guys have no idea how excited my husband was that we decided to do this book. Like he was like, yeah, and I read him all the questions before and we talked about him, and I was like, dude, you just want to join the club? He doesn't, but he was really excited to go over the questions with me. He's like, I can't because I've already read it, but yeah, I would probably stay put.
Oh, wow. So I know that I did not know about Blackout. I did know about the one with Ethan Hawke. Oh, here comes Victoria. Yay. Hi, Victoria. I'm so glad you're here.
Hey y'all, I'm so sorry. My husband's like playing a game and was laughing. Hi from vacation.
Hi. It's so good to see you. No worries at all. I'm just glad you're here. Thank you.
Hey, sorry I'm late, y'all.
We just started in on a question. I'll go ahead and repeat this one. Basically, would you go in to a city or out to like the country forest area if an EMP hit? That's where we're at right now. That's something to think about. And then since we have a large volume of people, we're raising our hands. You can wave at me and put it in the chat, or put your little hand up in the little emoji. Udi, we accidentally skipped you, so I'm so sorry, honey. Go ahead and tell me about your thoughts.
It's okay. I couldn't figure out how to do the hand thingy anyway. So thank you, Emily, for pointing that out. I'm on my phone. I'm at my aunt's house. I'm house sitting. So if you see a puppy pop up, I'm watching them too. Little demon
Oh,
children. They've been driving me crazy. They're not house trained yet. And yeah, so I've been going a little crazy. But my aunt is super excited that we're reading this book too because she's a huge, huge a post-apocalyptic reader. And we've always talked about something like this. So yes, I would 110% know it was happening. As soon as the cars go out, like everything shuts down and it's quiet. And so like we don't have that many old cars anymore. A lot of people are driving newer cars, so everything was shut down. And I would go to my parents' house because they're hoarders, but the good kind of hoarders. So there's like, I don't know, I think he has like six different freezers full of, all kinds of stuff. And we live on a farm, so we've got like 80 acres of land. And then we also have family next to us. So we're surrounded by like good people too. So it would be my aunt and her mom, who I'm house sitting for. We'd come and swoop them up, and we'd all go to my parents' house and hang out and be prepared for it. Yeah. So that would be my own little community. And we live in a small enough town to where I don't think we'd have too much of like a big city. So like I'm an hour from Sacramento and like 5 hours from LA. So we're in the Central Valley here, so we could hide pretty well. And my family has tons of ammunition
Okay.
for protection and stuff.
Are you near like a water source to where like
Yes, there's a
I
few
think
lakes.
that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a few lakes around us that we could easily get to. And then we have the old enough vehicles to drive around like how they're driving around and everybody's like, "What? You have a car?"
So
We'd be those people. We'd be driving the tractors.
I see a lot of people commenting in the chat saying that people call this type of person a prepper, not a hoarder. However, I do want to let you know that there are that you can be both. So I hoard everything, books, VCR stuff, like in case we go back to olden times. But I also like conspiracy theories and prepping. So I think you can be both simultaneously.
Yeah, and we got bug out bags and everything. Like we when the fires were close to us, like we were ready to go. We have everything.
Oh wow. Okay, yeah. So definitely wish you lived closer because I would be headed towards you. Tiff, I do see you. You're right on the same page as me. Go ahead and give us your thoughts. I am seeing some of your comments and I'm right on point with you.
Oops, helps to unmute. First of all, this book has made me feel that I am woefully unprepared for if any kind of emergency were to happen. I'm just like, wow, I have nothing. I would be good for like 3 days, and then I'd be like, well, I'm out. I don't know what else to do. But I was thinking like you probably do want to be far away from the cities at first when it happens, but I feel like I don't know if they're, he's talking like months and maybe even like a year in there. I feel like after months and stuff like that, it might make more sense to start heading towards the cities because that's where you're going to find more resources at that point. That's just what I was thinking about.
Me too. I don't know though. Little town. I'm hearing so many different perspectives. I was right there with you, like following your train of thought completely, but hearing everybody else's input, I'm like, oh, maybe. So I am wildly unprepared. First of all, I would have never ever guessed. We get rolling blackouts here all the time. I work from home, so my power goes out a lot, and I'm so oblivious. I don't know if I would have gone out and like listened for cars running. Like, you know what I mean? So I'm not sure it would have hit me. Um, Stephanie has one more cool question that I thought was interesting, and it came up to me too. Would you have helped the lady that he encounters there on the highway if you had a working vehicle, or would you have left her with everyone else on the interstate like he did? Go ahead, Patty. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so for his situation and my situation, I have small children. I would not have picked her up. And I feel horrible about it. I'm a girl's girl. I love women. Um, but I could not possibly risk my children's lives. But see, what if she had a kid? Then I don't know. That just changed the whole story. And I can't even fathom that right now. All I can think is this woman was alone and I felt really uncomfortable with the situation. There was all those drunk dudes and stuff, but at the same time, again, what if she was just like a ploy and then someone else like came and like robbed me and hurt my children? So I have to say I wouldn't have gotten her. And I'm sad about it.
I think we innately feel most of the time that women are safe and harmless and can't be cruel, but that's not always the case. And if my babies are in the car, even though I don't have any babies, I don't care if my chihuahua is in the car. We're not risking harm to any of my babies. I'm sorry. Like you have to have like a hierarchy of needs here. So I'm not sure who went first, Robin's hand or Emily's, but go ahead, Emily, since Robin's off screen for a moment.
I agree with Patty. I mean, given the circumstance that he's in, 100%, I would be like, sorry. Plus, I mean, because we have the trucker who showed him that he had a weapon and was like, I got it here, like you're good. Plus, he had the girls in the car and his mother in law. And, like, that whole situation, I 100%, if I have my children or my grandchild or my animals or somebody else's kids in my car, I'm accounting for other people, not just myself. So being a natural protector and the fact that I do carry a weapon on a daily basis, I'm always prepared for that situation. But I also have to take into consideration that if I have other people with me, I'm also responsible for them. So he did make sure that it was going to be okay because the other guy was there, the trucker was there with the weapon. And so I think I would have felt bad in leaving her, but still would have also had my own suspicions, like Patty said, on whether or not is she a ploy.
Right.
If she had a kid with her, then I would probably consider the situation differently. But she didn't. She was by herself, so I would have left her.
I do like Tiff's comment. I see that in the chat that you said that you would have, had there not been anybody else there. I felt the same way. I felt like if I helped one, then I might get thumb rush and like you have some dangerous men there. If she had went by herself, I think a part of me, since it was so early on, I may have considered it too. That's a really good point because I felt that instinctively at first, and then I got to thinking like, well, not all women are good, you know. Robin, did you want to give your thoughts, or do you need a moment? I think she needs a moment.
I can wait.
Oh, good. Okay, you wanna chime in?
Let somebody else go first.
Oh, good. Okay, Stephanie, are you next, honey? You want to go ahead and let us know what you were thinking and how you came to the question?
Yeah, so I mean, in my initial too, I'm thinking, she's alone, but there's all these drunk guys, and then I'm like, she might be up to something though. So like everybody else, I was thinking the same thing. And honestly, how you are with your pets, I'm the same way with Nicholas and Charlotte. I don't think I would risk it because anything can happen. They could have a knife, they could have, they could hide anything.
Right.
So you just never know. You just never know.
In a way, he's on an advantage because he's military trained.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was kind of a good thing. But let's say he comes in contact with Emily and this woman's packing and she wants the car. You just don't know, And I mean, I wouldn't even like discuss anything. I would have gotten my kids, my mother-in-law, and I would have been out. Like we would have even not even known the trucker had protection. But yeah. And then Robin, would you like to chime in now or you want to wait until the next round? Totally up to you.
I was just gonna say, I feel like all of you are saying you feel bad, and I would, unpopular opinion, totally not feel bad because, like, I told you I read a ton of books like this, and now I just kind of feel like, hey, if you don't know, then you don't know. Sorry, but maybe you should have been informed. And like that, you probably all think that I'm terrible now, but like, there's only so many resources, and there's only so much that's going to be available if something like this does happen. And like you can't save everybody. You have to like prioritize your family or whatever. So I'm that person.
I think I would be too, but like back to what Tiff said, like it was the first day. We don't know, 100%. I feel like my gut would have been like, maybe I should, I don't know. Maybe further on, like they're on day 5 or something. And now I'd be like, heck no, I'm not helping anybody, but I'm not sure. I'm really not prepared for this sort of thing. I have a bleeding heart. Melody, how about you? I think you might. There you
Sorry.
go.
Okay. Can you hear me now? All right. Yeah. So I think at first I for sure would have left her behind and not even thought twice about it. Because you can get overwhelmed so quickly. You never know who's out there, what's going to happen. That's at first. You need to get your stuff secured and your people secured and your people taken care of. But eventually, you're going to need people with other skills. Unless you can do it all, you're going to need doctors and farmers and teachers. So at some point, you are going to have to let people into your group if you want to survive in the long haul.
I agree.
Now,
100%
me
think
personally,
really
I don't think I'm going to survive the long haul. That's just me.
Well, that brings us to a great question. First of all, Danielle, hi, welcome. Hello. I'm not sure. I'm thinking that might be Delana, maybe. I'm not sure. If you want to introduce yourself, you're more than welcome to, but you don't have to once you get things figured out. Go ahead. How about Tiff? I see your hand is up.
Yeah, unmute. My goodness. Okay. I really think that like the thing I have kind of been pondering since I've been reading the book is like how quickly would people realize what was going on? Like, I don't know that a lot of people, I mean, we know, guys, there's not a lot of like super smart people. So I don't know that a lot of people would realize what was going on. And so I just wonder like how long would it take to turn into like the looting and the rioting kind of stuff, versus people just being like, what's happening here? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I think that might change how I viewed it in the moment. Um, that would like make me maybe consider helping somebody.
I agree. I agree completely. Like, I think by the time I realized what was happening, I might be on the page where Melody was like, okay, we need to form a community and we need to have people who have services. But right off from the very beginning, I don't know. I really, honestly. How about you, Erin? Did you give some thought to it?
My opinion, and like, I don't want anyone to think I'm a bad person, but I wouldn't have helped her, and I don't think that I would have felt bad about it either. Just because, like everyone said, you help one person and then you're going to help 50 people, and those people wanted to take his cart anyway. But like, I wasn't in the same situation, obviously. There's never been an apocalypse, but like, I live in a rural area. It takes me like, if I stay on the main roads, it'll take me like 50 minutes to get to my parents, unless I take this back road, cuts through, and I can get there in just under a half an hour. So, one day I was coming home and it was like almost midnight because we had stayed there visiting, hanging out late, and it was just me and my kids. This woman was standing in the middle of the road, like flagging people down. Well, me, because, it's a rural area in the back road. So I stopped to see, like, oh my gosh, what's going on? Like, anyway, it turns out like she was on house arrest and her boyfriend or someone showed up and he was like going to hurt her, but she was like super drunk. And I called 911, but she's like, please stay with me. Like, I can't leave. And I'm like, no, sorry. Like, I have my kids in the car. I'm not going to put my kids in danger. So like that was just an example. Like, I'm not going to go out of my way to help somebody when it's, you never know what could happen. Maybe like in real life, I may, but I don't know because I've already been in some kind of situation like that with my kids, or I'm like, sorry, I'm not going to. But then again, what I want to talk about what Tiff said, honestly, I feel like it probably wouldn't take that long for people to start looting. I mean, there are people who steal stuff on a daily basis just in broad daylight when the world is normal. So I feel like once they get a second of a chance, they're going to go in there and they're going to steal whatever they can. And then everyone else, their survival instincts are going to kick in. They're going to be like, well, heck, these people are stealing all this stuff. I'm going to be without. So I might as well do it too. I have to put my family first also. So I don't know. That's just how I was looking at it. Like they're going to do it. I mean, not that I ever want to steal anything, but I'm going to take stuff too if it's going to make my family be in a little better position, I guess.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I agree. I agree. Well, I have so many thoughts on that. So Danielle, I saw you unmuted for a moment. Do you want to introduce yourself? Oh, look, I think I got a
Hey,
second.
sorry.
Okay.
No, I'm technologically
It's Jameson.
impaired. It is. I had to
Oh,
join from my phone because I was running late and I had no idea it wouldn't let me give me a chance to change the name on there. So it's me.
oh, yay, Jameson. I'm so glad you're here. This is wonderful. Okay, so thank you so much for joining us. We were just talking about a little bit about like whether we would go in or out. Would we go towards the city or out into the country? And then also, would we have helped people on the side of the highway or we would have left them in the way that he did. Do you have any thoughts?
This is like, I feel like, first of all, this book is so much scarier than any horror thing I've ever read in my life. Like, I've always felt like whatever the apocalyptic situation was, I'm gonna head back home for me. And home for me is pretty much the middle of nowhere. I guess I don't know. I think that it's because I feel safe, but also there are way fewer people to have to deal with. Um, I've always felt like that's what I would do if I don't know if shit got serious. Um, and I feel like I've had this conversation with like people in my circle, I don't know, since The Walking Dead. Are you a Rick, or are you like I'm kind of the like I'm gonna take care of my own people first. I don't trust people very easily, so I feel like I am gonna get my people to safety, and then I will help people if I can, but I'm not gonna put people I love in danger to do that.
Yeah, yeah. I agree with that. I do. I really do. Um, we had started to talk about, there was something I wanted to ask. I think it might have been Melody or somebody in the chat had mentioned the long haul, you know? And there was a question from Delina that said, do you feel like you would wait it out, or would you have resorted similar to the woman in the nursing home who split her wrist, knowing that her health was so severe and she was paraplegic, I believe, like her legs didn't work anymore. Like where would you, I know this is a very morbid question, it's extremely difficult to consider, out of context, but do you think you would be like, okay, I'm in full survival mode, we're going to do this, I'm going to give it my best shot? Or do you feel like, nah, that's a lot of suffering, I think I'm going to go ahead and check out because I probably won't make it? I see your hand is up.
Yeah, I think I I'm pretty sure I would like try to survive. Like I would be like, you know what? Let me figure out like I think there's a part of you that probably would panic and be like, "Oh my gosh, but then after you calm down for a second, you might be like, "All right, let me start thinking about how I can get through this." Like I don't know, we just read a book about, people surviving in concentration camps for like 6 years. So I think that I personally would probably have that instinct to survive. But that also makes me think about, has anyone seen The Mist, that movie? Oh my gosh, where like at the very end, they're like, you know what, we just can't do it. Anyways, I won't spoil it for you, but you people, if you know, you know. But yeah, that's what I would lean towards. And I also want to add the nursing home scenario was awful. But I think about it a lot because I work with adults with developmental disabilities and like trying to figure out like how would they be safe, and like, I'm sitting here like I gotta survive and figure me out. And so I just felt so bad for the people that were still at the nursing home trying to like make it work and still keep those people safe. And I just can't even imagine that scenario.
Me either. I can't even wrap my mind around it. It was so devastating to me. I cried that entire chapter. Okay, so we're just going to go from the top here. We'll go ahead and start with Melody. I see your hand is raised.
Okay, sorry, back. Yeah, so when I said I wouldn't make it the long haul, I would try. I would give it a shot. But, I've thought that reading other books or, The Walking Dead, I think was a great example of that. I don't know how many of you have seen it or read the graphic novels or anything. They just suffered and suffered and suffered. And I'm like, at what point is just the suffering too much? So, I would try to survive and try to, increase my garden and grow food and things like that. But I don't know at what point, and you never would know until you were actually in this scenario, but I don't want to have to struggle.
Me either. So I guess my core question is, with your current health, where you feel you are right now, do you think that you could survive that?
Probably. I think I'm in okay physical condition. I'm not on any medications that would, impede my survival if I didn't have them. I've got blood pressure meds, but if I'm outside working really hard, my blood pressure is probably going to be fine. It's not like I'm on anti-rejection meds or I'm not a type 1 diabetic. You know, that was something from this book. I read a lot of post-apocalyptic fiction, but this book was one of the first ones that made me think about what happens when people run out of their medications. I don't want to spoil anything. I'm trying to edit myself because I've read this book so many times. I don't want to spoil things that are upcoming for people that stopped at the end of chapter 4. But just the medications was a big thing for me.
Yeah, that Erin has mentioned that in the comments and her questions. That was a big fear of hers as well. I did see that. And then we'll go ahead and move to Stephanie. Do you feel like you would fight? Like your instincts would take over, or do you feel like you would just be like, oh my word, I don't know about all this suffering and carnage and fighting and all that?
So I think that I would really fight like hell, but I do have medications that I do need in order to function right now. So that's kind of, I don't know how long I would survive. Or maybe if I was getting a lot more exercise and, if I was eating a lot healthier from a garden or something, maybe I would feel better. Maybe I could actually go into remission. I don't know. That's where I'm stuck at would be if I run out of medication, what's going to happen? Because those infusions are really, helpful to me right now.
Yes, I'll be completely transparent with you. When the pandemic hit is when I decided I need to have the gastric bypass. Like the way people responded with the way they've handled the pandemic, it frightened me so much societally that I thought, okay, no matter what kind of doomsday thing that's coming, we can't come together as a community for the greater good. So I'm going to be on my own. So I want to be as strong and healthy as possible. As of right now, I'm not there. How about you, Emily? I'm really curious from your perspective because you've also had that surgery. And I often have wondered, was that part of because you were kind of a prepper and kind of like, I feel like you're more advanced than some of us in this area. So I'm real curious to hear your feedback. Oh, you're muted.
There we go. My decision on my bypass had a lot to do with my metabolic disease. However, I am off of all medications. So that was certainly a plus. I'm down 75 pounds. So that made a big difference for me. But it should come as no surprise to any of you that I would 100% fight to survive. I mean, obviously, you guys have known me for a couple months now, so it's pretty sure you guys know that. But I think that I would survive pretty much until whatever end came in that. Partially because I'm not on medications now. My husband is diabetic, but not type 1, thank God. But it is not easy to control, even with just diet, even in those cases. So my fear would be those who had medications that were either life-saving or had medical devices that were life-saving, like pacemakers. My daughter has asthma, so that could be an issue. But we are preppers. Like my dad was a gun dealer when I was growing up. So my dad now manages a shooting range in California. And I live in Ohio. So, I have my concealed carry. I do all of these things and we do prepare for those. I have freezers. I have, so I think we would be pretty set up for survival. My in-laws are all pretty much the same in that. So preparing yourself in any way that you can, whether you are living in an apartment in a city and like I had said with, I think it was, I had responded to Tiff on it. Knowing your exits and knowing how to defend where you are is important, regardless of whether you are in a city or you are in a suburb or you are in a rural area. You then have to decide at what point you're going to, is it better to leave or is it better? And each situation is very different. And like I had said before, I wrote a short story on an EMP. So I've done a lot of research on it and what can happen and what isn't and what could potentially go wrong. So I think I have a pretty good idea on how I would respond in that kind of situation. So I think fighting would work for me.
I'm curious if your research matches up with mine and how long ago you wrote it, because I just recently did the research this week. But from what I understand, if it's a country that's been, attacked in this type of way, it can take over a year to get things restored. So like when they're talking months, that's really not where we're at. Like basic things they can get sort of back online. Is that what you learned as well? Like it's much more complex. And then you also have to think about how we're going to retaliate and then what may come back on us, like we're clearly at war.
Well, like they were saying that, in the book, they mentioned this as well, that hospitals and healthcare facilities and things, they have generators. But if you have an EMP that is great enough in power that is going to knock out whole power grids over entire states and over an entire nation, it's also going to knock out the ability for any of those generators, unless they are purely gas powered, to operate. So if you have a gas powered generator for your home, then yes, you'll be able to run it as long as you have fuel. And if you don't know how to make your own fuel, then it's only going to run for as long as you have fuel reserves. And if you're using pumps that use electricity, then you have that problem as well. So there's a whole snowball effect that comes into play. And that's why we're seeing that in the book that they're talking about. Like it could be months, it could be years before they get everything up and running. Everything, yes, it would take years.
Yeah. How about you, Patty? I see you got some thoughts. Let's hear them.
I do have some thoughts. So I have a couple of different things to think about. So if we're just talking about physically, yes, I feel like I could absolutely. I'm not on any medications. I'm pretty fit. I've got anxiety out the ass. So I don't have that going for me. But mentally, psychologically, if something were to happen to my kids, I'd probably just end it. But here's the thing that I think about when I think about an EMP, because an EMP, it's meant to take down all of your electronics. So if I were someone who wanted to hurt a country, I would first attack with an EMP so that they cannot put up any type of sensors or stop points, and then I would hit them with something else. So we have to understand and be aware of the fact that something else could be coming. I mean, I haven't read the book. Melody, don't ruin it for me. But why would they do that without having a follow-up attack? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've always thought if an EMP comes, it's because they want to lower or destroy our defenses so that they can bomb us. And we have anti-bombing, technology in the military. And if that is destroyed, which hopefully it's in a Faraday cage, but I just would think that they seriously are trying to do more than just the EMP at that point. So maybe none of us would. Let's be honest. Maybe we're all just going down.
I have been, so after the chapter 4, at first I was on board and I'm like, okay, maybe my survival instincts will kick in and I'm going to be okay and I'll figure out a way, somehow. After chapter 4 and the nursing home thing, I'm like, oh my God, no, full stop here. I'm not going to make it. I cannot go through that, cannot see that. I don't want in part of it. I'm never going to be the same after this anyway. I'm going to be so traumatized and so disturbed and so scared. I saw somebody say in the chat here, I'd always be afraid that it was going to happen again or something like that may impact us. I don't really think that there would be life after this for me and the way that I respond to trauma. I don't, me, I'm always the first one to check out and quit. I mean, also, Stephanie, you asked about radiation pills. You can purchase iodine pills to cleanse your water on Amazon. You can even buy a whole prepper kit that has some of those essential things on Amazon if you would like. So if you're looking for something like that, they do have it available. I've actually purchased stuff like that and come
Really quick. I'm so sorry. There's also something called the Jace case. So it's okay. So like at the end of the world, a lot of people are going to die from sinus infections and teeth infections. It's actually what killed a lot of people before we had those. So there's something called the Jace case, and it's a team of doctors, and they will send you medications that you can have that are up to like 20 years shelf life. And it's based on your individual thing. It's pretty expensive, and I mean, look, you have telehealth today. I can just call and say, hey, I got a UTI. What are they going to do? Test my piss? They can't. So I could just be, start hoarding little UTI medications and everything. But they do have those as well, if that's something you're interested in looking for.
That's fascinating. It's so much. It is so much. I wanted to know your guys' thoughts since we're reading this. So we all hear about ways that something like this can come about, especially with like pandemics, zombie apocalypses, whatever it is. Would this be like top tier horror for you, or is this like in the middle? So like if it's like really bad, thumbs up. If it's like maybe I could work this out, thumbs down. Wow, nobody. Okay, yeah, this is flat out. I would rather deal with anything else. Like take my resources, my electronics away from me. Like I don't know. I would rather take on a zombie any day, any day. That just The Walking Dead is like summer vacation for me. It's just nuts. Okay, so Udi and Aaron both touched upon this. I think it's important that we just talk about it. We know the youngest daughter has diabetes. How far do you think he will go to get her medicine? And in correlation with that, how far would you go if this was your daughter? Also, we also have to consider the stability of the medication long term. So would taking it be beneficial type of thing? So do you guys have any thoughts on that? Because that was my initial biggest concern. Emily, I'd do whatever I had to do for my child. Tiff, what do you think?
I think I agree. I would do whatever was necessary to figure that out if it were my kid. I think that he probably did the right thing, only taking like 5 vials, because if you think about it, insulin is a medication anyways that is not going to last very long. So it would just be a huge waste, and you might as well leave it for somebody else to use it. But yeah, I mean, there isn't any length I wouldn't go to like figure out what needed to be done.
Yeah. And I see that Emily, you have more. You want to go ahead and let us know what else you would give a theory on that, like the stability of it, like how beneficial is it to take more?
It's not. Tiff is right, because of the shelf life of refrigerated medications, just in general, not just insulin. You're running that risk of you're doing harm by hoarding it. So preparing yourself by having a certain amount of a stockpile that you can keep at a proper temperature and know its shelf life. There is going to come a point where he is going to have to do things to get more medication for his child. And maybe it's the way I was raised and all that, but for me, if it's between somebody else and one of my loved ones, I 100% will do what I have to do. And as a parent, I don't know many parents, who love and care and have that parental bond with their child, who isn't going to be willing to do some slightly, perhaps unethical or morally gray things in order to care for their child. I mean, they would expect it out of any other parent. So I would do things, but I would expect another parent to go toe to toe with me for some of the things for their child too. So
I worked at Nationwide Children's Hospital, and the time for the renowned doctor that I worked for, parents were fighting over. And we weren't in any kind of situation. So, like, his attention alone caused parents to literally fight in the hospital over him. Robin, what are your thoughts?
Well, so I was just going to say, so I didn't get through chapter 4. I thought we were supposed to read up to chapter 4. So I haven't read that part. But two things. One, in most places where people are going to be breaking in to steal medication, people are going to be breaking in to steal, at least during the first like certain amount of any breakdown, the people who are going to be breaking in and stealing medication are going to be going after narcotics. So usually, like, if you were looking for insulin, you're probably going to have less of like a fight than if you were going in there trying to steal oxy or, because that's what people are thinking about first. And then on the second side of that, there are some insulins that do not need to be refrigerated until you open them. So like there are some of the pens. So if I were in that situation, that's what I would be looking for first. Like, of course you have to have that knowledge. And both of my parents are type 2 diabetes, and they are on, like, my mom has a pacemaker, so she would probably be gone anyway. But like, if I was looking for something for them, that's what I would be doing first, is trying to find like the stuff that not everyone's going to know about, if that makes sense.
Yeah. How about you, Patty? That's a good point.
I just don't feel like there's any way to like get through this without having some serious moral wounds, because of course Emily, all of us, we're going to do whatever it takes for our family. But like, I don't know. I feel like I think about Aaron specifically when I answer this question, because like you're like, I want, like, in the last book, you're like, I want to change anything because that means I don't have my babies. And I feel the same way. And like, even the thought of having to do something is very devastating to me. And it's so hard to swallow. I don't even like thinking about it. I don't like thinking about hurting someone for my kids. I don't like thinking about my kids being in a position where I have to hurt somebody for them. But it's such a heavy feeling. And of course, I'm going to do what I need to do at all costs, but I want to acknowledge the weight of this book and these questions. And it's a little uncomfy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, very.
It's a little gross feeling.
It's very sticky. I think there is a difference between people who have children or something that they're deeply responsible for. So like the grandmother and her husband, or children, somebody who is incapacitated that you have to care for. Tiff even brought up the people that she works for or works with. So I think the responsibility of others trumps the responsibility for ourselves for whatever reason when it comes to instinctual responses. And as somebody who, just is responsible for myself, my dogs, and my wife, I don't think the weight of morally impacting myself necessarily outweighs the survival. So for me, if I know I'm probably going to die, I kind of want to keep my side of the street clean. I can't see myself doing things that are cruel, and I would want to focus on community, like Melody said. I would hope, but as we can see, I mean, just in the last 5 years, we don't do real good with community support here. Like, I have better faith in it than I think we're capable of. Maybe in a smaller town, but not here in a big city. Absolutely. I mean, I don't know if we're big, but a medium-sized city. So with that being said, I think one of the questions that we haven't really covered, we kind of touched upon morally, do you think you would be fair? Aaron had said in the way that he was, especially with the insurer, for the grandpa. Grandpa's gonna die, plain and simple. I'm not real sure if for me, I would have been looking for something that would help him leave this world as painlessly as possible. So instead of Ensure, I've been looking for like morphine or whatever you need to euthanize somebody. Because he's just going to suffer. It's selfish. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't know how anybody else, if anybody has any feedback on that. I do understand her taking him home. I don't want him to suffer there alone and die alone, right? But as far as getting like Ensure for him to survive longer, I don't know. Melissa, I see your hands up.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm actually a caretaker for my grandpa. He is 82 and he has leukemia and also CPAP, COPD, oxygen at times, those kind of things. So I know there would be no way that he would survive without those things. I get taking him out of the nursing home, but I think at that point I would try to figure out a way to help him pass comfortably instead of making him suffer through dying naturally. So kind of like an assisted suicide type thing to help, kind of put him down and make sure that he's not suffering. That's what I was thinking of with the nursing home scene, is just those poor people are all going to die and it might be slow and agonizing and painful for them.
Scary too. I agree, and I'm so sorry that I know what it's like to be a caretaker for my grandparents. And it's really really hard. Maybe
Yeah.
that's why my first instinct was like I think it's Colorado has the right to die law. So you can go there and have like you can be euthanized for your own choice, or they'll help you die in a painless way. If that close to death already, I just don't understand like why try to suspend that pain for him longer. So I see Stephanie has thoughts.
Sorry, I was trying to get it unmuted. So, I agree with everybody else, honestly. And if my mom would have been stuck in a nursing home or something, I would have wanted her taken out if she wasn't on the vent. And I'm glad that they got her hospice so she could actually die pain-free. And I think it's unfair that he did not steal medication for the grandfather. He's going to go through hell, and so aren't all those other people. I would probably be trying to be grabbing medications for all of the people in that facility and doing something.
I think that's the missing piece that John has that we know of right now. And I think that might be why he's met this woman that's a doctor, because he's prepared to survive in every other way but medical knowledge. So I think that's a really interesting point. Maybe he didn't even consider that because that's not where his brain goes. However, mine would have been like, we need to find the easiest way to get him out of this out of pain. Patty, you have thoughts?
I always have thoughts, Billy. So I think that John knows deep down that Tyler is going to die. Just like those two men that he left those insures for, I think that he knows we're all going to die. I feel like the reason maybe he grabbed so many is because maybe his family is going to need to survive after. Because insure, that can sustain a body. And I think that maybe more so that was kind of why the motivation was there. Which is a little thing I thought about.
Yeah, absolutely. Emily, I see your comment here. The pain meds were the first things that were loitered and stolen. You're right. I remember that now. Go ahead and give us some insight on that.
Yeah, I mean, he's told that those kids came in and stole all of the morphine and mentions that Tyler's on a morphine drip, because we have to remember he has cancer. So he has lost his ability to speak and to feed himself. But, we don't know what his other health conditions are. And if he was in that state, then I think that it's really more of a kindness that he does for Jen, his mother-in-law, over really trying to prolong Tyler's life. I think it's that in this emergency situation, in this chaos, it's a kindness that you're doing for your family to say, I know he's going to pass. There's not going to be much we can do, But if we bring him home, then at least we're caring for him. He's surrounded by his family, and we can try and make it as comfortable as possible. We don't know because we haven't read that far. And if you have, then you probably know the answer to this. But down the line, would he be able to get some sort of pain medication or something for him in order to allow him to pass more comfortably, to deal with that pain? But I think it's more of a kindness that he's doing for Jen, his mother-in-law, and for his daughters to be able to, let him be home with family and let them care for him. Because the moment Jen saw him, she's like, he's not staying like this.
I guess I was just disturbed by the insure. Like, why this probably isn't going to be our best move. But
well, I think Patty is right. I think part of it is because whatever Tyler doesn't consume, we can consume. So after bypass surgery, you learn this. You will be relying quite a bit on meal shakes and things when you're in the liquid diet phase, that you're going to get that nutrition from. The only thing that you then suffer from is you can have issues with vitamin deficiencies. So I still use them. I'm almost a year out. This month is a year at the end of this month, and I still use like Ensure or another type of protein or meal replacement shake. So I think I think Patty's right. I think that's part of the reason why he takes them all. If Tyler doesn't need them, then we've got them.
That's a good idea. Yeah, you're right. And I think that there is something to be said for that. However, I don't feel like that's where his brain was going, but it is a good idea. I mean, it's the most resources that you have. There's one more question that I wanted to go over before we had like our little wrap up that I thought Melody put in that kind of took me aback was no one really knows until they're in a survival situation. So this is hypothetical, but is there a line that you think you would not cross to stay alive? So is there something personally for you that you could not do? So like for me, the first thing that came to my mind is like, I'm not eating a domestic animal. I'm gonna chew on bark on trees and flowers. Like I can't go, I'm not eating a human. These are some things that I'm just like, no, that's a line where I'm not, so I see some hands are going up and I'm really curious. I mean, Aaron had a little side chat of like, do they eat the dogs? But I'm like, Aaron, I did not even consider that. But yeah, I think this is where the dogs are being brought up. Oh, they're gonna eat the dogs. So, Patty, we'll go start with you. What's your line?
Okay, I didn't even think about the dogs, but like you're right, because every single thing that he's brought up in the book, like, oh, you got that old stupid car, blah blah blah. It makes sense. Yeah, there is a line that I would not cross. And that would be, I mean, I feel like it's pretty obvious. It would be not hurting my kids. I would not eat my kids to stay alive. I'd let them eat me or, whatever. I probably wouldn't eat a human being, but that I don't believe that I would hurt. I'd like to think that I would not hurt anyone's child. I would probably end up adopting kids along the way and have like a little horde of them by the time it was all over. It's hard. And it's one of those things where it's so gross and awful that it's hard for me to even get myself into that mindset of trying to have that conversation with myself, even though it's hypothetical. You feel like shit afterwards. You don't feel good. I just know that I wouldn't hurt my kids.
Would you sacrifice yourself for them to eat?
What?
Would you sacrifice yourself?
Oh, yes, absolutely. The only thing is like
okay
if you eat a human being, though, you have to understand that you can become extremely ill. Even if that person is in good health, it could end up, you could die from it. You could end up having psychosis from it. So I don't know that I'd recommend them eating me either. But I mean, if that was the case, yeah. But yeah, it can definitely fuck you up pretty bad. Eating a human being.
Yeah. I was just curious. Emily, how about you?
So I'd like to say that I wouldn't eat another human being. However, given the situation, I don't know. Like, there's a movie, I don't know, some of you may not be old enough to remember it, called Alive, and it's a true story. about I think they were Argentinian, I think they were a rugby team. Their plane crashes in the Andes, and in order for them to soccer, that's what it was. Melody remembers. um, and they end up actually eating some of the other passengers, their family and teammates and friends, in order to survive. Um, so I'd like to say that I wouldn't, but I can't guarantee that I wouldn't. It's one of the reasons why I keep chickens. I'm in that situation. I can eat my chickens. I don't think I could. It sounds terrible. I could kill another person if they were threatening me, but I don't know if I could shoot a domestic animal like one of my dogs and then eat my dog, because that would be that for me would be like shooting my child and eating my child. So like Patty, I would not um harm one of my children or my family in order to live, and I would tell them, do what you have to, do with me if it means your survival. And I don't think I could hurt somebody else's child. I think my thing is it goes with my cancer nature, the weak and the unable, because of their age or feeble-mindedness or anything like that. I don't think I could. It goes against it. I'm a protector in that sense. But if you are an able-bodied person, then you should probably plan.
How about you, Melody? You brought up this question, and I was really curious. Like, you obviously had some thoughts.
Okay, so I would 100% eat a human. And I know it's dangerous, but I've had this discussion with my friends before, just random days. I don't think I don't say I wouldn't intentionally kill someone to eat them. But if I was in a situation like Emily was talking, the movie Alive and the book, which is phenomenal if you've not read it, they really went through a lot and ate the bodies of their teammates. They were already deceased. It was the only way they were going to survive. I would do that. My line, cats. I love cats. I am like obsessed with cats. My 3 cats are so dear to me that I don't think there's any way I could possibly eat one. Now, other domestic animals, as much as I love them, if it was a survival situation, possibly.
Mm-hmm. I think if it had already recently died on its own and it wasn't ill,
Yeah.
I just don't know if I could murder something innocent in order to eat it to survive. Also, I honestly, I don't know. I don't know even at that.
Yeah.
How about you, Stephanie?
I think I agree with that. I don't think I could eat a domestic animal. And ever since I heard about the Donner Party in school, I've thought and hard about could I actually eat a human? And I know it would make you go crazy. I don't think I could do it. I really don't. No matter if they died and they were healthy, I don't think I could do it because I don't want that poison in my brain. I don't want to go cuckoo because shit's already bad enough, you know? You don't need to add that on top of it. But, but I don't know if I could eat a dead animal either. I mean, maybe chickens or cows or something like that. I don't think I could eat a domestic animal at all. This just makes me feel sick inside.
Oh my God, it makes me just so disturbed. I don't know if I could live
Yeah.
with myself. How
Yeah,
about
I
you,
definitely.
Udi? Do you have that same, like, okay, for example, rats aren't necessarily the most domesticated animal. You have rats.
I was just gonna bring that up because my aunt, we were talking about it again, and she goes, "Well, you have rats. There's your protein." I go, "No, those are my babies. I couldn't eat my rats." And then, like, now that I'm thinking about it, like, yeah, my husband's over here. Yeah. I honestly, if it was I probably would, but I wouldn't eat my pet rats. I would breed them and
Hmm.
get babies because they have like I think like 10 to 12 babies and their gestation period is only like 21 days.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, like 23 days they're popping out. So you can constantly have protein and they're as bad as rabbits. They just constantly breed. So yeah, I could have a steady source of protein there. But
Oh,
I wouldn't be able to kill humans to eat them. But if like someone crossed me and I had to kill somebody and I had nothing else to eat, I probably would, to be honest. Like if I had to survive and if it was, you know, I'm 5 minutes away from death, here's a nice chunky leg. Let's go for it. I think I probably would just to survive till my next meal.
well, I think there's no way of really knowing until we were in that situation. However, instinctually, I have a hard time eating like chicken and cow and pig who have like real emotions and feelings. And I don't know. But who knows, and I'm really curious to see where it goes. So we decided that we're okay with the speed of what we're reading. So we'll read to the end of chapter 8 for next week. The chat this week under the video post is going to be super important because we have some people who are following along but not coming to the meeting. So if you can interact with them as much as possible, that's so awesome. Plus, anything that we didn't get to cover here, especially things like quotes, themes, predictions, those are going to be really important, especially if you make a prediction and you haven't read all the book. If you make a prediction and you haven't read all the book and you're on point for the prediction, there will be a prize. Any type of prediction. And then finally, look for the book post tomorrow about how we're going to start suggesting our next read and decide on that. Any questions, concerns, thoughts? Okay. Only tip of advice, everybody find their favorite cartoon, watch it after this meeting. We need to reprogram our brains before bed or we're all going to be cannibalists tonight. And I love you all. Thank you so much for your input. Be active in the chat as much as you can, and I'll see you next week. Take care. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.